Arab were people of very sharp memory. Because the Prophet ﷺ has now laid out the foundation, the strategic planning to preserve the Qur'an must be readjusted and recalculated by the Sahaba. Who is to lead this task now? Whenever the Prophet ﷺ would receive revelation, Wahy, various different forms of that Wahy being sent to the Prophet ﷺ, but when the Wahy is now sent, from the foremost action that the Prophet ﷺ would do is that he would try to repeat it himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed this in the Qur'an. Allah says, it is my job and our job to preserve this Qur'an in your hearts. Allah will make the Qur'an thabit. He'll make it firm in your heart so you do not لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه. Do not move your tongue so hastily, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to memorize it. It's my job. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking that job himself to preserve the Qur'an into the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the revelation is now in the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's memorized naturally. He then begins to teach it the Sahaba. He would say, bring the ink and write it down, record it. Some Sahaba were the kuttab of the Wahy. They were known as the writers and the recorders of the Wahy of the Prophet ﷺ. On the one hand, it's preserved in the heart of the Prophet ﷺ. On the other hand, it's preserved in writing. And then there were the Qurra of the Sahaba, reciting the Qur'an and teaching others to recite. As you know, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu had the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful voices, and the Prophet ﷺ used to ask him to recite the Qur'an. So he was from the Qurra. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud, who was one of the earliest Sahaba in that he accepted early Islam in the early days of Mecca. He was one of the close associates of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and he accepted Islam very early on. So he was memorizing the Qur'an from the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ and listening directly and recording it and memorizing and teaching it to others from the beginning, subhanAllah. So we have the Qur'an preserved in the Prophet ﷺ, preserved in writing, preserved in the hearts of the Qurra, preserved in the hearts of the Sahaba who are now memorizing parts of the surah as they are being revealed. From the very first revelation, this transmission began. Now let's not forget also that this is also preserved in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. Before time, qadiman, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the Qur'an, his kalam was preserved in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. As the Sahaba now increasing in numbers, these Sahaba are teaching other Sahaba. So we have hundreds of Sahaba that have memorized the Qur'an, and hundreds of parchments and leather and bones that have the Qur'an recorded on it. So this dual lock mechanism of the preservation of the Qur'an is solid, is crystal clear. Add to this also of course the context that the Arab were people of very sharp memory. You know, they were so particular with memorizing their lineage and their names. They would memorize their names back to 10, 15, 20 generations before, and they would take pride in this, you know. Fakhru bil ansab was something that the Arabs used to have. Before we carry on, just a reminder that there are millions of people using the Tarteel app and you're missing out. Download the app right now, benefit from it. There are so many features that you've seen about, many videos that come up on your feed all the time. Download the app, make the most of it, and join us on our journey to become better students of the Qur'an, inshallah. So this is now taking place at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has now laid out the foundation and put into place the system of preservation, this is watertight. And so when the Prophet ﷺ passes away and returns back to his Lord, this system carries the strength and the preservation of the Qur'an forward. One of the great historic events is the Battle of Yamama, which was one of the hurub of the Ridda wars. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, some of the tribes tried to break away and leave Islam. Some said, we're not going to pay zakat anymore. Others said, we're not going to follow Muhammad anymore. Others thought, this is a vacancy opened up. I could become a prophet like Muhammad. A'udhu billahi min dhalik. They were dajjaluna kadhabun. Of them was a man called Musaylama. Musaylama was very ignorant, very arrogant. His own followers knew that he was a liar, but they wanted to have a prophet among them because this brings power and fame. So they followed him blindly just for the sake of their ego and for their greed. And so Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when he was appointed the Khalifa of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was given that courage and that strength and that wisdom, despite only having 2 years, just more than 2 years in his Khilafah, and naturally being a very soft person when it came to the hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the kalam of Allah. He was very strong and very courageous and very brave. And he said, we are going to go to war with those who separate between salat and zakat and those who claim to be a prophet after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he went to war against Musaylama. And at the foremost of these Sahaba, on the front lines, were the huffadh of the Qur'an, because when the Qur'an enters into your heart, it makes it stronger, makes it bolder, makes it more courageous. Allah says in the Qur'an, وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. So half of the Qur'an is a representative of Allah's deen on the land. He is naturally a courageous, brave person. Sometimes we think about the people of Gaza and we think, how are they so courageous and so brave? You'd be perhaps not surprised to know that they have some of the largest numbers of huffadh. Despite the war and despite the genocide, they continue to memorize the Qur'an and to revise the Qur'an, because this Qur'an, when it is attached to the heart of a believer, this heart becomes further fortified and strengthened. So the Sahaba on the front line of this Battle of Yamama are huffadh. Qadarullah, they become shuhada. Good news for them in this dunya and also the akhirah. But this means that the strategic planning to preserve the Qur'an must be readjusted and recalculated by the Sahaba. Sayyidina Umar, who had the highest amount of ghira for the deen, a level of, wanting to protect the deen, he said to Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq that we must preserve the Qur'an not just by huffadh, but we must collect all of these aktaf and adla and different forms of preservation, physical writing, and make it into one book. This decision is made that the Qur'an has to be now preserved into one book form. Who is to lead this task now? This mighty task of compiling the first ever physical book of the Qur'an on land in the dunya, after being preserved in writing in the Lawh al-Mahfuz by the qalam. We're thinking maybe you'll be a very experienced senior sahabi, or maybe a group and a forum of Sahaba. SubhanAllah, the sahabi that's chosen is actually from the youngest of the Sahaba, a teenager by the name of Zaid ibn Thabit from the people of Medina. He is chosen because he is known to be one of the most trusted Sahaba to the Prophet ﷺ, and he is one of the Sahaba with the sharpest memory, the one who was able to memorize the language of foreign nations in 15 days. SubhanAllah. There were of course other Sahaba who had a similar level of strength and talent. So Zayd ibn Thabit is given this task of leading the project. He's commissioned this project of collecting the Qur'an into one physical book form. And he chooses other Sahaba to help in this forum, this committee to collect the Qur'an into one physical book form. So the process begins. How so? Let's not forget that Zayd ibn Thabit is a huffadh himself. Okay? Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is huffadh. Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan is huffadh. The Khulafa ar-Rashidun are kuttab of Wahy, so they know exactly what the Qur'an is as it is. Along with this, for further reassurance, they are consulting the rest of the Sahaba. Have you heard this ayah from the Prophet ﷺ? Have you heard this ayah from the Prophet ﷺ? Every single ayah must be rigorously double-checked, triple-checked in writing and in verbal transmission at the minimum of 2 separate witnesses. Of course, every single ayah is mutawatir. So 2 is a basic minimum quantum that was met for every single ayah. And the ayat were transmitted from the Prophet ﷺ in their thousands, in their hundreds. Some Sahaba were complete huffadh, others were partial huffadh. And the first ever kitab, the Mushaf, is compiled, known as the Mus'haf al-Imam, at the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, which is then preserved throughout the Khilafah of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab, until we know famously the Mushaf is then made into further more copies at the time of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved the Qur'an. And of course, as the years go on and the decades go on, thousands of huffadh, and as we know, when the time of the Qurra and the Tabi'een come, we have those who specialize in the field of Qur'an in Medina, in Basra, in Hadramaut, in Kufa, in Mecca, Ibn Kathir al-Makki, Imam Asim al-Kufi, and so on. And that is how the Qur'an is preserved in this dunya. And I want to show you something that I have brought in with me today, subhanAllah. This is known as an ijaza certification. And we're speaking about how the Qur'an was preserved. This is known as an isnad. An isnad is actually one of my students. I recently issued this in London just before coming to Cairo this time around. And it says ijazatun fi qira'ati, ijazatu qira'ati wa iqra'i al-Qur'an al-Kareem bi riwayat Hafs an Asim al-Kufi. This is a certification of reciting and teaching the Qur'an in the riwayah of Hafs an Asim al-Kufi min tariq al-Shatibiyah. It starts with, of course, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and glorifying Him. And thereafter he says that me, Ashiq Rahman Miskin here, can testify that this student of ours has recited and perfected the ahkam of the Qur'an in this riwayah. And I have learned this method of recitation. I have been certified myself by my Shaykh, whose name is mentioned here, Ahmad Mustafa Abdul Mun'im Askar, who is from the ulama of Azhar and Muallim al-Mahad al-Qira'at. And it goes through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, exactly who these people were. Their names, their biographies are recorded in history books. These are not unknown individuals. In fact, if they were unknown, no one would take knowledge from a unknown person. You must know who you're taking knowledge from. So then it carries on into the likes of Imam al-Jazari, Imam al-Shatibi, Abu Amr al-Dani, and then it goes to the Tabi'een, and then it goes all the way down, or it should be up, to be honest, back to the Sahaba. And it says, right at the end, كل من الصحابة عثمان بن عفان وعلي بن أبي طالب وأبي بن كعب وزيد بن ثابت وعبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنهم جميعا خمستهم على سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الروح الأمين جبريل عليه الصلاة والسلام عن رب العالمين جل جلاله. This is known as an isnad. Every single qari who's an imam should be certified, taught by the ustad, ideally having a certification like this to back them too. Now, this is of course for the huffadh. What about the Mus'haf that we have printed? Are they just, anyone can print a Mus'haf and that's the end of it, and you just start publishing it and sending out to different people's postal addresses and that's it, the Mus'haf is now spread out? Wallahi, it's not like this. Every single Mus'haf has a lajna behind it. These are called the lijan, or the lajna of Tashih al-Masahif, the committee of overseeing and ensuring that every single letter, haraka, diacritic, every sakin, every shadda, every whether you call it fatha or kasra or zabr, zir, pish, whatever you call it, is exactly as it's supposed to be. Whether it be the print of Mecca or Medina or of Misr, whether it be of South Africa, they all have committees to ensure that the written form of the Qur'an is exactly as it was sent to the Prophet ﷺ. And the verbal transmission is also assisted or fortified and strengthened with the isnad and asanid. The Sahaba, Tabi'een, those who carried the Qur'an to us until today, they were people that recited the Qur'an, but just not the recitation only. They practiced and lived the Qur'an. They lived by the Qur'an. The question we need to ask ourselves today is, I may have the Qur'an on my app and my phone, on my tablet and on my shelf. Maybe I'm waiting for Ramadan to do 1 juz or half a juz. But are we really living the Qur'an as we're supposed to? Are we treating the Qur'an as it is supposed to be treated? Alhamdulillah, it's great to see that these videos are helping you, mashallah, tabarakallah. Please stay tuned and subscribe so that inshallah you can carry on seeing more content, more videos, more educational materials like this, bi'idhnillah, so that you can carry on with the journey to becoming a better student of the Qur'an, inshallah.